Welcome to That Bible Guy, where we look at the case for the Christmas story. How can I trust what I read? In other words, how can I trust the details of the Christmas story? Before I go on, I'm sure you're going to be really wanting to know what's on my jumper. Yes, it is in fact a penguin. He's wearing cool sunglasses, as you would expect. So, there is a great degree of fake news in the last couple of years I've heard about on the media, on the news. One such story was doing the rounds in 2016, where it was around the US presidential election, and it came out on a website, WTOE, which is now defunct, which said that Pope Francis was endorsing Donald Trump. This took many people by surprise, but it done the rounds, went viral, only to turn out for the Pope Francis to say, "I never say a word about electoral campaigns." It was in fact not true. And there are many, many stories like that one where news comes out and you realize the details are very questionable. And it is good to question the details of stories that we hear. However, you think of games like Chinese whispers, you tell one person something, it passes down the line, only to change really dramatically by the time it gets to the third person. Never mind what happens by the time it gets to the 8th or ninth person. So sometimes people think of the Bible a bit like that game or the game Telephone, where the details just changed over the years. Or the details are so outlandish, or the authors weren't reliable, or all these reasons why I cannot trust the details. How can we trust the gospel details of the angel visitation, of the virgin birth, of the baby Jesus born in the stable, of him actually being the Son of God, of the shepherds bringing gifts to Jesus, of Mary traveling around with Joseph on a donkey for miles and miles while pregnant? How can we trust all these details that we read, that we trust in over this Christmas time? How can we trust in them? Well, 3 reasons today why we can trust the details of this Christmas story. The first one is the authors themselves. The authors were either eyewitnesses to the events or were followers of eyewitnesses. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Matthew and John themselves were apostles and eyewitnesses of the events, and they wrote them down when other eyewitnesses were alive. Mark was a follower of Peter, and Luke, as we know from the Gospels and Acts, was a follower of Paul. So they wrote down from first-hand experience, or those who had first-hand experiences. So these historical characters were eyewitnesses, or the followers of eyewitnesses. They weren't the most prominent writers that you'd expect to see as writers of the Gospels, yet these people wrote them down because they were the ones with unique insight into what happened. They often wrote details about their own failures as well, about arguing over who was the best, over rejecting Jesus, over abandoning him at his most needy hour. And they had nothing to gain in writing down these details were they not true, but they had everything to lose. As we know, 3 of these 4 gospel writers were martyred for their faith and for the details that they actually wrote down. So they had all to lose as they seen with Jesus, and they were shunned by society at that particular time. They also recorded, as we know, historically verified, the details, the places that they wrote about, the geography, the rulers at that time that Luke wrote about, were also, and we'll talk about that in a second, were also accurate. So the writers themselves were eyewitnesses or followers of eyewitnesses, and they wrote them down while the eyewitnesses were still alive. Because the Gospels were written down, this is well verified today, between 30 to 60 years after the life of Jesus. This is a uniquely small gap of time, so the events are being written down while the people who were around at the time were still alive. We do not have any counter stories. So that's the authors are trustworthy. The second reason why we can trust the details is the amount of evidences we have of other manuscripts showing that things haven't been changed over the years. We've had many, many manuscripts have been found over the years. Around 30,000 manuscripts have been found of the New Testament, of the Gospels, which confirm the details that we have of our oldest manuscripts all the way through to our newer manuscripts. This shows that the evidence, the information, the details that were written down over many, many years hasn't been changed. So that gives us a confidence due to the manuscript evidence, which in terms of works of antiquity is second to none. The third reason we can trust the details is the extra biblical material outside of the Gospels in the New Testament. Other historians and writers write down some of the similar details and geography of that time which is in the New Testament. So we have with Tacitus, the Roman historian, Josephus, the Jewish historian, the Babylonian Talmud, which is rabbinic writings, Jewish writings, which confirm some of these events. We've got Lucian, another Greek writer, and then we've also got the details that Luke wrote down in the Gospels, also confirmed. Details about who the king was, King Herod, about Zacharias being the priest at that time, about the decree of Caesar Augustus. These events, these writers, some of these events and most of all these writers have been historically confirmed writings outside of the Gospel. So 3 reasons why we can trust the Gospels and New Testament, the details of the Christmas story. 1, the authors were eyewitnesses or followers of eyewitnesses. The amount of manuscript evidence we have means that we know it hasn't been changed. And the 3rd reason is the extra biblical details outside of the Bible itself which confirm what was written down. So that's us today, why we can trust the details that have been written down about the Christmas story. We'll be back with you all again soon. Please like, subscribe, and share this video on for other people, and let's get his word out there.